Hello, my name is Bob Hill, and I am the president of the Church of Scientology Mission of Riverdale at 308 Broadview Avenue in Toronto. This is our 5th Sunday service delivered online during the coronavirus disease restrictions. In the last sermons, we talked about the importance of keeping well while staying active and productive and looking outward. We talked about the importance of religion at this time, as religion can bring us personal wisdom and hope for the future. Last week, we began the topic of how to improve relationships, and today I'm going to continue with more information that you can use to better relationships. I'll begin by reading the Creed of the Church of Scientology. Okay? Good stuff. We of the Church believe that all men of whatever race, color, or creed were created with equal rights. That all men have inalienable rights to their own religious practices and their performance. That all men have inalienable rights to their own lives. That all men have inalienable rights to their own defense. That all men have inalienable rights to their sanity. That all men have inalienable rights to conceive, choose, assist, or support their own organizations, churches, and governments. That all men have inalienable rights to think freely, to talk freely, to write freely their own opinions, and to counter or utter or write upon the opinions of others. That all men have inalienable rights to the creation of their own kind. That the souls of men have the rights of men. That the study of the mind and the healing of mentally caused ills should not be alienated from religion or condoned in non-religious fields. And that no agency less than God has the power to suspend or set aside these rights overtly or covertly. And we of the Church believe that man is basically good, that he is seeking to survive, that his survival depends upon himself and upon his fellows and his attainment of brotherhood with the universe. And we of the Church believe that the laws of God forbid man to destroy his own kind, to destroy the sanity of another, to destroy or enslave another's soul, to destroy or reduce the survival of one's companions or one's group. And we of the Church believe that the Spirit can be saved, and that the Spirit alone may save or heal the body. Very good piece of information to follow. The next thing I'm going to take up with you is a reference written by L. Ron Hubbard, and it's called Personal Integrity. It's important to keep this in mind as I'm going over today's sermon with you. What is true for you is what you have observed yourself. And when you lose that, you have lost everything. What is personal integrity? Personal integrity is knowing what you know. What you know is what you know. And to have the courage and to know and say what you have observed. And that is integrity. And there is no other integrity. Of course, we can talk about honor, truth, all these things, these esoteric terms. But I think they'd all be covered very well if what we really observed was what we observed. That we took care to observe what we were observing. That we always observed to observe. And not necessarily maintaining a skeptical attitude, a critical attitude, or an open mind, but certainly maintaining sufficient personal integrity and sufficient personal belief and confidence in self and courage that we can observe what we observe and say what we have observed. Nothing in Dianetics and Scientology is true for you unless you have observed it. And it is true according to your observation. That is all. Keep it in mind. You got it? Good stuff. The topic of this Sunday service is how to improve relationships, part 2. Scientology is a practical religion, and it's for use to improve situations. Scientology teaches a person how to know. That's what the word means. Knowing how to know. I'll continue to explain the meaning of the words used because understanding words makes it possible to learn and survive, something we all want. I'll be using a book written by L. Ron Hubbard to give you more information on how to improve your relationships. The book is called Way to Happiness, A Common Sense Guide to Better Living, written in 1982. This is what it looks like, and that symbol you see there is the symbol for the Way to Happiness. In chapter 20 of The Way to Happiness, A Common Sense Guide to Better Living, Ron Hubbard wrote this precept: try to treat others as you would want them to treat you. Very important. Last week, we discussed the importance of developing virtues in your dealing with others. And as I mentioned, anyone can use the virtues. Virtues are the ideal qualities in good human conduct. You got it? Now, last Sunday, I asked you to think over how you would like to be treated by others, and by doing that, to work out what virtues really are for you. Okay, so that you understand them. In other words, take a look. What are virtues for you? What do they really mean to you? We went over the first 8 virtues with examples: justness, loyalty, good sportsmanship, fairness, honesty, kindness, compassion, and self-control. Okay? Now today, I'm going to go over 9 more virtues with you. Here we go. You ready? Good. Another virtue is tolerance. If you had any defects or shortcomings, you might want people to be tolerant, not critical of you. An example of that would be you're trying to get something done and you're getting frustrated and you don't quite know what to do. And so what happens is somebody comes and they start criticizing you. Oh, you're this, you're that. You don't know what the heck you're doing. What you would want is that person to sit, instead of doing that, you would want them to be tolerant and say, hey, can I give you a hand with this? What is it you don't understand there? And then you go, oh, and the lights come on and you go ahead and fix it. The next one is forgiveness. This is a big one. Instead of concentrating on harsh criticism and punishment, this virtue means you can forgive people. Now, an example of this would be you're doing washing with the other people in the house that you're confined with. You throw in their favorite clothing, your piece of clothing. Could be a shirt, could be a blouse, could be a sweater, could be a pair of pants. You're not fully hatted on how to do laundry. You shrink it. You would want the person to forgive you for shrinking it. You wouldn't want them to start screaming and yelling at you about how you wrecked their clothing. You can always buy more clothing. So you would want the person to forgive you. The next one is benevolence, being generous. We may be asked to help others at this time in the form of contributions of money or time. So you have to work out how generous you would like others to be to you and play that forward. An example is, well, let's pretend you're wanting to purchase something. You're in a lineup. You think you have the correct change to buy the coffee, let's say. The coffee costs $2.50. You go to pay for it, you're short a quarter. The guy behind you says, I'll give you the quarter. So you want to, that's Guy's being benevolent. He just wants to keep the line moving. He gives you the money. There's no questions asked. You get your coffee. But at a later date, you help someone else get a coffee. See how that can work? Good stuff. Belief. Your possible desire would be for others to believe in you, not doubt you at every hand. You make an error, you say, I'm going to do it correctly. You're trying to work. Let's say you're cutting hedges. You make a mistake, you cut one hedge too low. Instead of being criticized for cutting the hedge too low, you say, I'm going to fix it. And you want the person to believe in you. So you go ahead and fix it, and you make the hedge look like it should have been cut that way by fixing it up. Respect. You would probably prefer to be given respect, not insulted. Giving another good attention is a form of respect. Someone hurts himself, so you give them kind attention and you help them. A person could be going along and they're doing something, and let's say they drop something. Instead of getting upset about them and saying, oh, look how clumsy you are, you just dropped it. You show them some respect and say, here, I'll help you pick that up. Or, I got it, why don't you just pick it up and we'll carry on. Okay? So try and show others respect. You'll find that will help. Politeness, good manners. In relationships, politeness can go a long way. Please and thank you, noticing when someone comes in a room, returning a phone call or email. These are examples of politeness. Different cultures and even age groups have their own manners, and taking the time to learn and practice those forms of politeness in this time is well spent. You got it? So let's take an example. A guy walks into a room and everybody turns away from him, or you turn away from him. That's being impolite. But the guy walks in the room and you look directly at him and say, hi. He feels like, geez, that person's being really nice to me. And he feels more alive as a result. Dignity. This means proper pride or self-respect. If someone makes you feel worthy and able, they are treating you with dignity. So in a relationship, you could compliment good things and encourage more self-respect. An example of this would be you're going along, you do something, you do a really good job. Someone looks at you and says, wow, you're doing a great job. Very well done. I can give you an example of that work. I have people that work for me, and so I look at them and I say, you know, Joe, you did a great job there. And suddenly the guy feels like, wow, I did a great job. And he feels really acknowledged. That's showing him some dignity, despite what the job is. Admiration. That means to regard with approval. You might like people to admire you. When you did something for them, you would possibly like people to appreciate you. Can you think of someone who has helped you recently? How could you show admiration and appreciation? An example of that is somebody calls you up and says, hey, I've got some extra face masks, or I found a place where you can get some hand cleaner. Always in short. We're always running out of hand cleaner. Well, there you go. The person's helping you. You could give them some admiration. Geez, that's really nice of you to think of me. It's kind of shocking, but they did. Friendliness. Do you like to be treated with friendliness? Sure, right? A friend is a person on the same side of a struggle. Have you ever stood in a long line and heard someone being unfriendly to another? It's not pleasant. And relationships can be made better by treating someone like a friend. We're finding ourselves standing in lines quite a bit. True? Right. Well, I'm sure you've been in a line where somebody was complaining about somebody else, or complaining about how the line was too long. What did it do to the tone of the people there? When I say tone, mood, how did it change it? It made it feel unfriendly. But then some guy in the line, all of a sudden he's friendly. Hey, how's it going? How are you doing? And he gets communication going around him, even though people are 6 feet apart in the line. What happens to the mood then? Suddenly there's a joke being told. People are laughing, standing outside, appreciating the day. You have some friendliness going on. The last virtue I'm going to take up is a big one. Love. Another word for love is affinity. Affinity is a phenomena. A phenomena is something you can see or experience that expresses, so affinity expresses the willingness to occupy the same place as a thing which is loved or liked. So there are degrees of love or affinity, and as a virtue, you would want to be treated with love by some. Now, let's take some examples of love. I'll give you an example. How's that? I have a dog. She's very old. She's in dog years. She's 105. So she's getting creaky and old. And, sometimes it's hard to stand up out of her pillow. But whenever I walk in that house, that dog greets me at the door and her little tail is wagging away. And so what do? I show her love and I give her a good pet and I acknowledge her for being a very loyal companion. That's an example of love. Now, you can certainly love people as you can love animals, as you can love just about anything. But showing that willingness actually helps to bring life into the environment. It makes it more alive. Now, if you find someone you don't like at all, there's a little action you can do to raise affinity for them. It's taken from the Scientology handbooklet, The Components of Understanding. What you do is you establish reality by finding something with which you can agree with that person. So you don't like them, you can't seem to find love or affinity, find something which you can agree with that person. Then you attempt to maintain as high an affinity level as possible by knowing there is something you can like about him or her. And you are then able to talk with him or her. Let's say you don't like being around a person. You don't like to talk to them. If you want to make that relationship better, you can find out what they like by looking in their environment. You find out they like gardening. They agree with you, gardening is great. Talk to them about gardening. Even if you don't know a lot about it, you can say, wow, I've always wanted to understand gardening. Or I always wanted to know how to plant flowers or tomatoes, something. And you use a lot of interest, and your understanding will rise, and you'll be able to talk with them. Try it out. It works every time. And you usually find that the person is not necessarily what you thought they were, and you start to like them. Now, all these virtues should be practiced with integrity. You have to personally work out how it is the right thing to do, because you want to. You need to be sincere, not fake. This is not a serious activity. So, those are the virtues I wanted to go over with you to improve relationships. There are other virtues that can be added by reading the 21 precepts laid out in the book, The Way to Happiness. I invite you to continue to pick a virtue each day, take one a day, and practice them in your communication and actions with others. If one treated others around them with the virtues, one would lift oneself into a new plane of human relations. One's survival potential would be considerably raised, and certainly one's life would be a happier one. Okay? Give it a shot. I'm going to end with the prayer for total freedom. May the author of the universe enable all men to reach an understanding of their spiritual nature. May awareness and understanding of life expand, so that all may come to know the author of the universe. And may others also reach this understanding, which brings total freedom. At this time, we think of those whose liberty is threatened, of those who have suffered imprisonment for their beliefs, of those who are enslaved or martyred, and for all those who are brutalized, trapped, or attacked. We pray that human rights will be preserved so that all people may believe and worship freely, so that freedom will once again be seen in our land. Freedom from war and poverty and want, freedom to be, freedom to do, and freedom to have. Freedom to use and understand man's potential, a potential that is God-given and God-like. And freedom to achieve that understanding and awareness that is total freedom. May God let it be so. If you have questions or would like someone to talk to you, you can reach us at 416-792-18889. And we also have copies of the Way to Happiness and Freedom booklets on how to stay well available online. In summary, keep yourself well and safe. For many, these are times of loneliness, fear, and frustration. You can make things better by working out and using the virtues with your partners, children, friends, anyone, through your emails, phone calls, letters, a friendly wave, whatever you work out. Join us next Sunday for more ways to help you improve and handle your lives in this extraordinary and challenging time. Thank you.